Before versus after. What the mansions of the rich looked like 50 years ago versus today. For a long time, people believed that luxury was synonymous with excess. The bigger the house, the more columns, the more gold, and the greater the visual impact, the better. But here's a paradox that almost no one talks about. The truly wealthy today live in mansions that seem too simple for those who still associate success with ostentation. And this didn't happen by chance. It was a silent, strategic, and profoundly psychological shift. Perhaps you've noticed that some of the most expensive houses in the world don't immediately catch your eye. No flashy facades or monumental gates. And this raises an uncomfortable question. Is the luxury we've learned to admire outdated? While many people still dream of gigantic mansions, those who truly have power are choosing invisible comfort, absolute privacy, and total control over their own time. In this video, you'll understand how this transformation happened, what was left behind, what was refined, and why modern mansions say much more about mindset than about money. If you think wealth is just about appearances, prepare to see this game in a completely different way. The monumental architecture of the 1970s, when size was status. In the 1970s, wealth needed to be seen from afar. Mansions were built like true monuments, with imposing facades, wide columns, high gates, and gardens that looked more like public squares. It wasn't just a house. It was a silent, or not so silent, declaration of power, conquest, and permanence. The bigger, the better. The more eye-catching, the more respect it commanded. The logic was simple. If it impresses the eyes, it impresses the mind. These constructions followed an almost military idea of grandeur. Enormous halls, high ceilings, central staircases designed for triumphal entrances, and heavy materials like marble, granite, and solid wood everywhere. It was common to hear that a house needed to impose its presence, as if the property had its own personality. And it did. Many of these mansions were built to last for generations, but also to make it clear who was in charge. Interestingly, this desire for grandeur stemmed from a time when wealth needed to be constantly proven. Having money wasn't enough. Success had to be demonstrated almost theatrically, and this shaped not only the houses, but also the mentality of those who lived in them. However, gradually, this concept began to generate excesses, high costs, and an uncomfortable question that lingered. Does luxury really need to shout about it? This doubt was the first step towards a silent transformation that would change everything in the following years. The classic interior and explicit ostentation, heavy furniture, exposed gold, and excess as the rule. Upon stepping through the door of a lavish 50-year-old mansion, the feeling was almost theatrical. Everything there seemed to say, "This cost a fortune." Sturdy sofas, thick curtains, Persian rugs covering large areas, and dark wood furniture that looked as if it had been carved to last for centuries. The interior didn't seek lightness, it sought impact. Each room needed to make an immediate impression, almost like a stage prepared to be admired. Gold, or something reminiscent of gold, was everywhere. Golden details on frames, handles, lamps, and even coffee tables were seen as direct symbols of success. There was no fear of excess. On the contrary, it was the norm. The more details, the more noble the space seemed. It was common to hear that a house that was too simple gave the wrong impression, as if comfort without ostentation was synonymous with a lack of power. This style reflected a very clear mentality. Wealth needed to be visually confirmed every day. Those who lived there were constantly reminded of their status, and so were visitors. But maintaining this standard required time, money, and energy. Gradually, some people began to realize that living surrounded by excess was more tiring than enchanting. And it was precisely this silent weariness that opened the way for a new way of seeing luxury, something that would begin to change not only the houses, but the way of life within them. The lifestyle inside old mansions, formality, social rituals, and elite habits. Living in a wealthy mansion 50 years ago wasn't just about living well, it was about following a protocol. The routine within these homes was marked by formality, rigid schedules, and almost rehearsed behaviors. There were rooms that were barely used on a daily basis, reserved only for important visits, formal dinners, or special occasions. The home wasn't just an intimate space, it was a carefully organized social setting. Receiving guests was a true ritual. Specific tableware, separate cutlery, appropriate clothing for each room, and a clear division between noble areas and service areas. Many families employed live-in servants, and this even influenced how people moved around the house. There was a silent hierarchy. Who could be in certain spaces, at certain times, and in what manner? Comfort existed, but it came with unwritten rules. Over time, this lifestyle began to take its toll. Maintaining appearances required constant effort, and the house, which was supposed to provide shelter, often felt intimidating. Some people began to realize they had enormous mansions, but few spaces where they truly felt comfortable. This subtle discomfort planted a new seed. What if true luxury lay not in formality, but in the freedom to live without pretense? This question would completely change the concept of living well in the following decades. Technology from 50 years ago, when the height of modernity was a noisy intercom. 50 years ago, technology in a wealthy mansion was a source of pride, even if extremely limited compared to today's standards. Having an intercom in multiple rooms, a built-in sound system, or an electric gate already elevated the house to another level. It was seen as the height of modernity. The simple act of pressing a button and something happening seemed like something out of a futuristic movie. These features, however, required constant maintenance and weren't exactly practical. Exposed wires, large panels, complicated controls, and endless manuals were part of the package. The technology didn't adapt to the house. It was the house that needed to adapt to the technology. Even so, the residents felt ahead of their time, as if they were living a few years in the future. The curious thing is that, despite all this effort, these innovations did not bring freedom, but rather more dependence. A simple technical problem could paralyze basic household functions. And it was in this contrast that a new desire began to emerge among the wealthy. Technology that simplifies, that disappears into the environment, and works silently. This discrete desire would be the trigger for a profound revolution in the way of building and living, which would begin to take shape in the following decades. The revolution, minimalist architecture, sustainability, and mansions that look like futuristic museums. The shift began when some wealthy individuals realized they no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. Gradually, excess gave way to visual silence. Modern mansions began to value straight lines, integrated spaces, and architecture that converses with the landscape, rather than trying to dominate it. Less ornamentation, more intention. The house ceased to be a stage and became an extension of the mind of those who live there. Glass, exposed concrete, steel, and light wood began to replace heavy columns and exaggerated facades. Natural light became the protagonist, and the concept of opening the house to its surroundings gained strength. Sustainability ceased to be mere rhetoric and became an intelligent strategy. Water reuse, solar energy, cross-ventilation. It wasn't just aesthetics. It was efficiency disguised as simplicity. Luxury began to hide in the details that few notice. This change wasn't just architectural, it was mental. Those who choose a minimalist mansion today are saying, without words, that they value time, freedom, and clarity. It's like trading a heavy suit for a tailored outfit that's almost imperceptible. And this new way of building has opened up space for an even deeper question. If luxury is now discreet, how does it manifest itself inside the home? That's where the concept of wealth truly begins to change. The new silent luxury, rare materials, clean lines, and richness that no longer screams. Today, true luxury rarely catches the eye at first glance. It appears in materials that few recognize, but which are expensive precisely for that reason. Little-known natural stones, certified woods of controlled origin, technological fabrics, and bespoke finishes have replaced the excessive glitz of the past. Wealth has ceased to shout and is now whispered, understood only by those who know how to look closely. Clean lines and empty spaces have become valuable. Instead of filling every corner, modern luxury respects emptiness, silence, and the breathing of the environment. A wall without paintings can cost more than one full of them because the investment is in the design, the lighting, and the feeling it evokes. It's like a short, well-placed phrase. It says little, but communicates a lot. This requires aesthetic and mental maturity. This change reveals something interesting about who lives in these mansions. They are people who have already passed the stage of proving their success and now want to preserve energy, time, and privacy. Luxury has become invisible comfort. And when everything seems too simple, curiosity arises. What is it really like to live in a house that practically thinks for itself? This answer appears when we enter the modern daily life of these mansions. The current life of the rich inside. Mansions, privacy, absolute comfort, and completely different habits. The daily routine inside modern mansions is almost the opposite of what it was decades ago. Today, the wealthy value discretion, silence, and freedom of movement. There are no more untouchable rooms or environments designed solely to impress visitors. Each space is designed to be truly lived in. The house needs to serve its inhabitant, not the other way around. Comfort is no longer a luxury, but a basic requirement. Habits have also changed. Many prefer to cook at home, train in private gyms, work in home offices, and entertain fewer people, but with higher quality. The mansion has become a refuge, not a social stage. Technology, acoustics, and lighting work together to create a constant feeling of well-being. It's as if the house embraces those who live there, instead of imposing rules. This new lifestyle shows that wealth today is more linked to autonomy than to ostentation. Having control over one's own time has become the most valuable asset. And when you live like this, the expectation naturally arises that the home will anticipate needs, respond to simple commands, and function almost invisibly. That's exactly where modern technology definitively enters the scene. The age of automation, homes that run on their own, and technology that makes any old mansion look prehistoric. In modern mansions, technology has gone from being visible to being almost imperceptible. Lights, temperature, curtains, security, and even ambient sound adjust automatically throughout the day. It's no longer about pressing buttons, but about living while the house works in the background. The luxury here lies in the absence of effort, in the feeling that everything simply happens at the right moment. Intelligent systems learn habits, recognize patterns, and anticipate needs. If the resident arrives early, the lighting adapts. If the weather changes, the house responds before anyone even notices. All this happens without visible wires or flashy panels. Unlike old mansions where technology drew attention, today it hides. It's like an invisible, efficient, and silent butler. This level of automation completely changes the experience of living. The house ceases to be a passive space and becomes almost a living organism. And when this is compared to past standards, it becomes clear that there has not only been a technological evolution, but a profound change in mentality. This naturally leads to the final comparison. What has really been lost, and what has been gained in this transformation? Final comparison. What was lost, what was gained, and why the future blends the past and innovation. When you place a mansion from 50 years ago side by side with one from today, the contrast goes far beyond aesthetics. What has truly changed is the intention behind luxury. Before, the house needed to prove something to the world. Today, it needs to protect those who live within it. Some of the theatricality, that immediate impact that impressed visitors, has been lost, but something much rarer has been gained: peace, fluidity, and a sense of belonging. At the same time, not everything from the past has been discarded. Many modern mansions revive old concepts, such as durable materials, solid construction, and the idea of legacy. The difference is that now this comes accompanied by technology, efficiency, and intelligence. It's like taking yesterday's wisdom and dressing it up with today's tools. Luxury has ceased to be a shout and has become a low, almost intimate conversation. This blend of tradition and innovation shows that the future of mansions is not about denying the past, but refining it. Those who understand this realize that wealth lies not in constant comparison, but in the conscious choice of what truly matters. And when this point is understood, it becomes impossible not to rethink one's own relationship with comfort, space, and success, precisely the reflection that paves the way for something even deeper. After understanding this transformation, it becomes impossible to look at luxury in the same way. The real question is no longer, how much does this cost? But, what does this give me back in time, peace, and freedom? The mansions of the past impressed others. Those of today protect those who live within them. And this logic applies not only to houses, but to life choices, consumption, and even mindset. What you have today truly works in your favor. Now, think honestly. Are you seeking to impress or to live better? Do you prefer accumulating symbols of success or building real comfort in your daily life? What excesses do you still maintain just because you've learned they represent status? Sometimes, evolving isn't about adding more things, but about removing what weighs you down, what tires you, and what steals your energy without you even realizing it. If this content opened your mind and made you rethink what true wealth is, don't stop here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue learning about luxury, mindset, and smart choices that shape the future. Because understanding this game changes not only where you live, but how you live.